You might have seen the channel. It's like called The Ask Project by Corey Gil Shuster, who is a Canadian. I think he's Jewish. I mean, he has to be Jewish. How else did he move to Israel? So he's a Canadian Jewish guy who voluntarily moved to Israel. And now he runs a YouTube channel where he goes around interviewing people. And it's easy to get fooled by him, as you might think that he's doing this out of a genuine desire to like see both sides. Like maybe he's not like a Zionist or anything. Maybe he moved to Israel when he was like a naive, idealistic kid. And, he's changed since then. Now he's trying to reveal like how racist and hateful and genocidal Israelis are while giving a voice to Palestinians or anything. But if you actually watch his videos and pay attention to them, you'll see he gets incredibly argumentative with the Palestinians who he interviews, to the point that his translator often has to stop him. He's like a kind of typical, I wouldn't even say liberal Zionist, but like a Zionist who thinks that like the outright genocidal Israelis go a bit too far, and who still is like very much an anti-Palestinianist racist. There was like a video on his channel, which I'm not going to be able to find now. There's no way. There's way too many videos. And I distinctly remember it from years ago. But it was a video where he has this one specific interview with like a Palestinian shopkeeper. I believe it was in Jerusalem, or I think it was Jerusalem. And the Palestinian shopkeeper was a citizen of Israel, and he was like talking to Corey, and it's supposed to like a neutral interview, right? Like he's giving them a voice. But the Palestinian shopkeeper like responds to a question that Corey asked him, and it was like, so like, why do you live here? Like, why don't you live somewhere else? And the shopkeeper's like, well, I'm not allowed to live in Jewish areas. And Corey like replies to him, oh, that's not true. There's no law against that. And he's like, no, it doesn't matter if there's no law against it. Like, no Jew would ever rent me an apartment. No Jew would ever rent me a shop. And Corey continues arguing with this guy, like trying to deny the segregation, trying to deny apartheid. And his translator starts saying like, no, Corey, you know that what he's saying is true. You know that what he's saying is true. And then it cuts. It's going to be impossible to find this video because I don't even remember what the actual topic of that video was. And it was from years ago. But that's like emblematic of the way that his ideology sort of seeps through in his videos very often. And he left a comment on my recent video I'm going over Jewish exceptionalism in that loner box clip, which I screenshotted here, which makes his opinion very clear. Corey Gil Shuster, Ask Project, that's his official channel. What a load of BS. The Turks, Sudanese, Syrians, Chinese, Russians, Congolese, etc. do the same and much worse, and almost no one is speaking out. The Jews do the same thing, as there is an industry of media, protesters, and talking heads in a whipped-up fury. So apparently Corey's main problem with the Gaza genocide is not that it's happening, it's that it's talked about too much. It's that people talk about it way too much. And apparently others are doing the same thing or much worse, which, no they're not. No, they're fucking not. Where else is someone massacring like this, proportionally this much civilians, this many children, this many clear non-combatants, women and the elderly? Nowhere. Like Chinese? Dude, how many people have even died in Xinjiang? Like maybe a dozen? Like, where are you getting this from? Then he responded to me after I told him to come on and debate me and just ignored it. Congo, 5.4 million killed. Ethiopia, 600,000 killed. Syria, 600,000 killed. Turkey, thousands of Kurds murdered and water cut off for millions. Guess who Israel supports there? Nagorno-Karabakh, thousands ethnically cleansed. Yet no videos from you on these. I mean, factually incorrect. I've made videos on those, but that's not that it matters. His entire argument is Israel should be allowed to do genocide and it shouldn't be talked about as much because bad things also happen in other places, which those things are not the same as this at all. This is way, way worse, obviously, and I would be glad to talk to him live and explain to him with clear facts and evidence how that is the case. But the thing with Corey is that he's exclusively able to talk to Palestinians on the street who are living under occupation, under constant surveillance, under duress. The only people who he can debate is random people on the street who are totally unprepared, who he holds a position of power over given that he is an Israeli Jew and they are Palestinians living under occupation, and who are afraid to speak their mind for fear of summary execution at the hands of the Israeli security forces. Because while he does sometimes blur out the faces of the people who he talks to, that's obviously not enough. Obviously, the Israelis are going to be able to track down someone based on their voice, based on their location. Like, they have the most dystopic surveillance network in the entire world. Palestinians are the most surveilled people in the entire world. If the bumblefucks at the NYPD were able to find the healthcare CEO shooter, Israel can find any Palestinian they want, regardless of how much their voice is distorted, regardless of how much you blur their face, especially in the West Bank and in Israel proper. Like, he can exclusively debate people who are oppressed for his benefit. He's a Canadian who voluntarily chose to move to Israel to receive ethnic benefits on nothing but the basis of his ethnicity, Jewish. He chose to move to Israel. And he clearly knows all about what Israel really is. Nonetheless, he stays there, doesn't he? So it's obviously not surprising that he's like this. It's obviously not surprising that he would argue that, like, talking about Israeli genocide is wrong because other people also kill people. Like, even if all of those things were as bad or worse, that's the best you got. You can't even actually deal with the facts on the ground. You can't actually talk about what is actually happening. All that you can do is try to divert attention away from it. Is that all you got? Not to mention it's not actually true, but it's besides the point. So yeah, that is what this guy is. Don't be fooled by his videos where he like interviews genocidal Israelis and lets them speak freely. Don't be fooled that means that he is like pro-Palestine or anti-Zionist, because he's absolutely not. And I think that already should have been pretty evident if you actually watch the videos where he talks to Palestinians, because you have to consider, for one, he gets editorial control. He gets control over what gets included in the final cut. If he loses a debate, obviously he's probably not going to include it in the video. And besides that, even what he does include in the video makes it clear what he really believes, because he constantly argues with people. He constantly like tries to refute them. He constantly tries to paint them in a negative light. He asks them, leading questions to try and get them to say what he wants them to say, to make them look bad. So again, if that somehow wasn't already obvious to you, it should be obvious now from those comments.